Check this guy out. Our next guest is a regular on the summit. He's a small town man building something very special. He owns a small but quickly growing MSO in rural Illinois and still finds the time to help shops write better estimates along with his buddy and fellow shop owner, Tim Papp, right? Who he secretly despises because Tim's drag car is much faster than his.
Ooh.
How did that get on the bio? So here to talk to all y'all about how to build success in a small town is our very good friend, Mark Probst. And we're still not sure if the B is silent.
I'm not sure either. Depends on who you ask around here. So all is good. Wow, cool.
Good to see you,
And
man.
follow Katie.
Yeah, so last year, you were continuing your growth. You had another new location. So take a couple minutes and just bring us all up to speed. How are things going in your little empire out there in Illinois?
So, before I started a second location, I had to ask a number of MSOs, how long did it take to get up to speed and to get that. And, and honestly, I had a lot of people said 2 to 3 years. And I was like, why did it take so long? Like, but for me, it was the same. This was my second location. And I said, after 2 years, I would say it was stable. And we just hit our 3rd year mark. And I said, it seems like it's finally starting to all work together finally. I realized there was a lot of things that I had to put in place to be an MSO that I didn't have. And that's what I've been working on. And then of course the people situation side of things, when I'm sitting here listening to Katie and I'm like, oh, very smart. I should have listened to her before. Like they had people trained in house before they opened their second location. So smart.
Yeah. So you're building processes and things to support your second location at this point. Sounds like.
Yeah, we started building I call it the playbook. So I said, we documenting everything we're doing. And I said it was a big project. I'm getting some help with it. I've had some help from different people with it. We even went as far as creating videos. So like the training videos on how to do this, how to open an estimate in TCC, how to transfer it to ProfitNet. So we built probably 30, 40 videos, little tutorials that we're using. So it to me, it was like so many little things that seemed so easy before were so easy. And I said, that's what I've been focused on this past year to get to establish where we're at now. So,
you're learning how to work on the business and not in it.
Yeah, and it did. So when people said 2 to 3 years, I was like, I see why now, because it goes by pretty quick. I mean, I think you can do it a lot faster, but for me, going from 1 to 2 was definitely an eye opener. So yeah, interesting.
Amazing. Talk to us a little bit about, operating in a rural market. I think we have a lot of shops watching this that are in, rural markets. Or what are some of the challenges there? What are some of the opportunities that you've found? What's it like getting customers? Fill us in.
So it's interesting because you can see your challenge is also your opportunity. So, you always you can look at it both ways. So we don't have extreme amounts of population. Like, I still laugh when I tell the story. Like you drive into my main store and the population, the sign is still there, 650 people. Like that's what, and I laugh. They need to update it because we're like seriously like up to 1,200 now. So it's really bogus, So,
that's because you've hired so many people. You brought them all into town.
Yeah. We so the main location is in the town is 650 people, and this shop for the first year just exceeded 2 million in sales. And like I said, it's a town of 650 people. So so the challenge is the population, but the opportunity is also, it kind of ties into the marketing. It's easy to be well known in the town. Your marketing goes a lot further. Like when we extend out, we're reaching out 30, 45 miles easily in some locations, depending on the next town that's over or the competition and stuff like that. So there's a lot of variables, but our market on the map goes very far away.
When you say reaching out, how are you reaching out to those other areas?
You mean as far as the marketing goes? Yeah. So there's a number of things. And I said, I was watching the marketing panel, and I mean, everything was so spot on, and not to repeat a lot of that, but early on, what we was looking at was a consultant had told me one time was, you got to become a celebrity in your town, right? So and I took that to heart. So I said everything we
You
did. I
actually
didn't have a
listened
lot of
to a
money.
consultant?
Right. It's an odd thing to do, to listen to a consultant, but that was after the 12th time they told me that. Though.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But to do that, so there's two ways. You look at marketing as a big ball. Like everybody's watched a marketing panel earlier, like that's a big piece. Another piece of that, which kind of coincides with it's a public relations side. So when I didn't have a lot of money, I had more time, right? So I invested my time, and it was mentioned earlier, the chamber, board of directors, chamber of commerce. I started, was asking to be on different associations and different groups. And then what that led to also was we created what we called a marketing calendar. So we always had an event in the works, and we'd plan like 3 or 4 events every year, like public events. It might be something as simple as a parade, or something as what we, excuse me. At one point we did a selfie challenge, and we had entailed a lot of local businesses, but we was always just creating some kind of an event to put ourselves out there. Then we'd use that as our promotion piece to just keep building and building. And it's like I said, till we became our own little celebrity is how we look at it.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Talk to us, Mark, about something I think a lot of rural shops would struggle with, is finding employees to support your growth. How are you doing that?
Yeah.
For me, I know, because I laugh at this, because everywhere you go across the country, and you guys can probably vouch for this, is like everybody says they have trouble finding employees. And I was like, so I laugh when somebody in Chicago says they have trouble finding employees. I'm like, okay, how many million people are in Chicago? And then I look at, my town is 650. Now if it was my wife's family, her dad just had 12 kids, so you just had more kids. But in my
the secret is make more kids. All right.
In my case, we only have 3 kids, so that wasn't the scenario.
All right.
It kind of ties back into that being well known, and don't turn an opportunity down. And I said, one thing I always say is, I'll never turn down an opportunity to go to a school. Every year we have the kindergartens come here for field trips. One of the 4th grade classes has us every year to stop by the school. I'm involved with some high school programs. And it doesn't mean that we're going to get an employee out of it. We're trying to build that image, though. It's like we're constantly like building that image. Here we are. This is a great place to work. We can have fun while doing it. And again, it's kind of like putting yourself out there. But I looked at this earlier. I had to do the math before I got on here, and I said, I have 6 employees that are in their 20s. So it can be, we didn't have trouble. We can find the employees. The other challenging part is getting them trained and built up to speed faster. That's what we look at. Yeah,
I love that, how you're figuring this thing out. You're growing people from within the organization as well. And so, to Ryan's point, that is one of the big complaints we hear from these small rural shops is people. But the other thing we're hearing a lot about is getting these cars calibrated, right? Because even the dealer that's 30, 40 miles away doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And so how are you combating that? I think this will help a lot of shops. Maybe, we'll see.
So well, I do have one advantage, and I don't have my own
He's like, no, speak English.
I don't have my own. Yeah. Let's talk about processes.
No, speak English.
My buddy you mentioned earlier is 30 miles from me, and he actually has his own calibration center. So I said one advantage, we do use him a lot for calibrations, because I know and I trust him. So that's a huge benefit.
That's why his car's faster. He can afford higher performance.
He's got my money. He's taking my horsepower away. But we do use a lot of dealerships, and I said we're 80% in our rural market. We're probably 80% domestics. So when we do get a car that's a car, there's no dealership. It was very common. I think we've had cars in St. Louis, probably a half a dozen times this year. We've had cars in Marion, which is another 2 hours south of us. So we literally told, if we get a car that we don't have no dealership, or if Tim doesn't have the access, we're towing them to dealerships to get it done. We do realize, I mean, as the conversation happened earlier, like there are checks and balances when you take it to somebody else. But as far as that goes, we haven't had any trouble getting paid. We, you know, charge a tow bill to tow it there to pick it up and get it calibrated, and, you know, kind of trust but verify when it's done to check it out.
Yeah. So we're super proud of what you've been able to accomplish in a small town, 650 people, and running a multi-million-dollar organization. Leave us and leave our people, because there's a lot of folks that are in our community that are in these small communities, and they come from Canada, you know, all over the US. What kind of parting wisdom do you have for them if they believe they can't grow because they're in a small community like that? Because they tell me that all the time. There's no, you know, I had a person tell me the other day that there was you know, only a couple thousand people in their town, and they said we're the most we're ever going to do is $1 million a year.
Yeah, you know, and it was funny because I said, you know, number one, we joke about it, but hire that consultant, and yeah, you don't listen to them for the first couple of years, and you tell them no, it's not possible. But find that consultant that you're missing. There's a piece of your business that's missing, right? And I'm how do I say this? I'll say this, I've worked with a number of consultants for different reasons, depending on where I've been at in my business and what I'm trying to accomplish, because some are good at this, some are good at this. Get that consulting company, get that friend, but, you know, then create a path. Like I said, it's if somebody's doing it, you got to take the blinders off and think bigger. You know, what's going to happen where you're at. You know, when I look at us and I was like, I'm kind of, you know, now I think like, where do we stop at? Is there a stopping point, or how, you know, can we get another town over? Can we get out 50 miles instead of 40 miles?
Yeah, I like the way this man thinks, Ryan.
That's why he's building race cars. He can get to the customers faster. So, smart move. Mark,
yeah,
truly,
there's a lot of opportunity. You guys have said it. You talked about it earlier, but I feel like there's so much opportunity in this industry right now, and I feel like it's going to get even better.
I believe you. And thank you, Mark, for doing this. Always great to see you. Always inspirational to hang out with you. You're the man.
Yep. Keep up the great work, Mark. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, brother.
All right, appreciate
Mark
you guys.
Probst, everybody.
Mark Probst.
The B is silent, but sometimes not.